College admissions is a murky process. There are a lot of misconceptions floating around out there, and you might be hearing all sorts of confusing and possibly misleading advice from your friends, your family, your teachers, even from your counselors. If you don't have a solid understanding of admissions, well, you might end up wasting a lot of time and energy during application season. But don't worry, we're here to help. Hi, I'm Elias, and welcome back to College Vine. Today we'll be talking about how the admissions process works at elite colleges so that you can craft your application with the right information in mind. First of all, we have to ask, what exactly are elite schools looking for? Elite private colleges like Harvard, Yale, Amherst, and Wellesley, well, they're not just looking for students with the highest GPAs or with perfect test scores, although a 1600 on the SAT never hurts. Rather, these schools want students who will enhance the name and the prestige of that school, both while they're in college and especially after that student has graduated. At College Vine, we call this the success principle. Basically, by accepting the students who are most likely to excel in their future fields, a school can grow its brand and also have wealthy and successful alumni to brag about down the road. Admissions officers view each class as a whole, maybe a couple future superstar engineers and doctors here, a sprinkling of important politicians over there, and some famous artists and Nobel Prize winning academics to round it all out. Ultimately, these admissions officers are trying to build a well-rounded class of students, not a class of well-rounded students, if that makes sense. So, now you know the ultimate goal of college admissions. Hold on though, there's still quite a few steps along the way, what with test scores, extracurriculars, essays, and more, all playing critical roles at different stages of the process. Let's start with step one. We call this demographic sorting. Admissions officers sort applications into categories. These can be based on race, on ethnicity, on geography, as well as on other factors like legacy or recruited athlete status. Generally speaking, admissions officers try to ensure that each of these categories is represented at least to a certain degree. You can think of this as being split into a lane of sorts, in which you'll be compared against other students in your category. Step number 2 is the academic cutoff. While the admissions officers group the applicants into various categories, they also assign each applicant an academic index score. That's a single number that uses a predetermined formula to combine your SAT or your ACT score with your grades. Once admissions officers have scored each applicant, then they assign a cutoff to each demographic lane, based on the highest cluster of academic index scores within that group. Students who miss their category's cutoff will probably be rejected, while those who meet it do move along to the next step of the process. Before we talk about that next step, let's talk about test scores just for a moment. They're not the main thing admissions officers will use to evaluate you, but rather they represent a threshold you'll need to clear. Once you've met that bar, higher scores actually have diminishing marginal returns, at least for elite private schools, and unfortunately really high scores won't make up for poor essays or a lack of extracurriculars. Okay, let's say your academic index score was enough to make the cutoff. Now we're on to the third and the most crucial step, the holistic review. This is when admissions officers consider all of the many non-academic elements of your application. Remember, even after the academic cutoff, these colleges likely have 4 to 5, if not more, qualified applicants for each available slot. Admissions officers read through dozens, if not hundreds, of similar profiles, and they typically spend only 5 to 7 minutes on each application. That's literally the amount of time it'll take you to watch this YouTube video. In those precious few minutes, something in your application needs to impress its reader to the point that they'll advocate for your admission to the incoming class when they meet with the rest of the larger admissions committee. So, how do you accomplish this? Well, remember that admissions officers at elite colleges pride themselves on taking your whole application into account. Everything from your essays to your additional information section in the Common App, it's all fair game. One way to stand out is to have what we call a spike. A spike is an area in which you have exceptional accomplishments. You might have a spike in the visual arts if you're an award-winning sculptor, or a spike in athletics if you're a state-ranked tennis player. It can really be anything, an academic subject, a creative skill or talent, an activity you enjoy, or a blend of 2 or more of these things. A good spike should stick out of your application, like a spike. Also, because admissions officers try to figure out what kind of student you'll be on campus, you'll want to think ahead and craft your application with an overall theme in mind. Your essays and your extracurriculars, including your spike, they should form a broader narrative about your interests and your story. This way, you can advocate for yourself and portray yourself in the way you want admissions officers to see you. However, while awards, achievements, a theme, and a spike, they all help, the best way to make it through the holistic review is to write about all of these elements in an authentic and meaningful way. Something about your background, your personal story, even your sense of humor can make all the difference. Basically, you need admissions officers to relate to you as a person. After you're reading your essays, they should not only think that you're a good fit for their school, but also they should feel a lasting impression from hearing your story. So, students who pass both the academic cutoff and the first round of holistic review will form the bedrock of a college's incoming class. This is how admissions committees choose most of their acceptances. But what happens if that's not you? Well, if you didn't make the academic cutoff, or if for whatever reason your essays didn't resonate with your initial reader, there's still hope. This brings us to our final step, filling in the gaps. This is when admissions officers have accepted enough students to assemble most of their class, but maybe they're still missing a couple key buckets they'd like represented. These can relate to a major. Maybe they realize they don't have enough incoming musicians and thus not enough potential music majors in their class. Or they can relate to demographics. For example, many schools like to say they have students from all 50 states. So if the school hasn't yet accepted a student from a less populous state, let's say South Dakota, admissions officers might look back at all the best applications from the Mount Rushmore state to see if one stands out. And that's it. Well, relatively. As you've probably noticed, some of these factors are out of your control. At the end of the day, it often does come down to luck. Every system has its issues, and college admissions is no exception. But we at College Vine are here to shed some light on this process in order to help you better navigate it. We have tons of blog posts, daily live streams, and a custom chancing engine that calculates your personal chances of acceptance at hundreds of schools, all for free on our website. Make sure to check out our other resources, some of which we've linked below for your convenience, dealing with all of your admissions-related needs. And of course, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up to date with all of our upcoming content. Thanks for watching. See you again next time.